Hi, my name is Sarah Gottlieb and you are listening to The Sound of Color. I'm a designer and my work focuses on integrating unexpected colors into spatial design. In this podcast, you will meet a series of influential guests in the fields of design and architecture who will all share their personal stories and expert knowledge on and about colors. Together, we will delve into the magic of color and its significance in the world of design.
If we teach people to live in gray and white environments and we offer gray and white products, of course they're gonna keep on buying this.
The Sound of Color is brought to you in collaboration with Montana Furniture. I'm very excited about my podcast sponsor because Montana Furniture is a part of creating more playful spaces by bringing colors and high quality furniture into private homes, offices, universities, boardrooms, restaurants, lobbies and concert halls. So as you can hear, they are just as big color nerds as me. Hi Daniera and Christoph.
Hello.
Nice that you will have us for the interview. We really enjoy to be in your podcast.
The guests in this episode is Dutch design studio Raw Color.
We also didn't have this master plan, so it was kind of learning by doing, right? Like each step
learning by doing, but also believing in what we did was what we found interesting and important.
Raw Color is an Eindhoven-based studio that blends the fields of graphic design, photography and product design. The studio was founded by the designers Christoph Brach and Daniera Haar. Crafting everything from textiles to brand identity to a homeware collection for IKEA, they mix product design and graphic expression with colors in whole new ways. Perhaps no contemporary studio's work has pushed color into as defining a role as the Dutch duo. In this episode, I talk with Christoph and Daniera about how trying to adapt a global design solution with colors is not possible, that you always should design from a personal point of view, and how IKEA was their first client to say, could you use more colors? This and much more is what you will hear about in this episode of The Sound of Color. But first of all, we're going to hear where Raw Color got their love of colors from originally.
So if we go back to where the studio started 17 years ago, so me and Christoph were just graduated from the Design Academy, we got asked to join an exhibition about nature and design. And for that, we set up an installation about natural pigments from beetroot. The thought was, okay, what if we can get the color out of a beetroot and bring it into a poster? So we made an installation, 100% juice it's called, and it's first of all a white poster. You put in the beetroot on top to the juicer and slowly the color appears. And of course every poster will be different and it's a nice interactive installation. It got a lot of publicity afterwards, and from there on we set up a big research about color and natural colors. In this case it's vegetable colors. So we started mixing them, beetroot with pumpkin or yellow paprika, and we got a huge color palette of all these natural shades. This project actually is called Raw Color.
Yeah.
And in the end also came our name. So if we go way back to the starting point, this is how we started off. Of course, already in school, we had a love for color, but during the years, this got more and more clear that this is something we love to work with. So that's a bit how it all started.
Well, maybe if I may add to this is kind of the historical, loop. Mm-hmm. But if I kind of analyze it with some distance, like if I would be flying in the air looking at us back then at that time, of course we didn't wake up and thought like, hey, let's work on color or spend the next 17 years working on color. So this is something that really developed during the years. Also through this first project, it became almost a self-fulfilling prophecy because we investigated on that and we got requests based on it and also on this name. But I think what is really nice that it happened and turned out the way it did is that we both already during our education worked very interdisciplinary. I studied graphic design in Germany before I came to the Design Academy in Eindhoven. Wanted to become a product designer, experimented a lot on that. Daniera did a lot of textile work, also already on color and styling. That was more the department that
photography we both did.
To document our projects. And I found it, when I think back from my personal point of view, I found it extremely challenging to commit to a discipline to say, hey, I'm going to be a product designer or going to be a graphic designer. I was really stressed about I'm going to make business cards for the rest of my life,
Oh no.
So in that sense, color really enabled us to work so widely because it is present in all the design disciplines, right? If you talk about interior, if you talk about the product, if you talk about graphics, animation, I mean, you can do everything black and white, but if you use color, color is present in all these disciplines, and that is so great that it's, color is so visual and that, has been ongoing love affair in that sense, that we're not fed up with it and we don't need to commit to the disciplines, but we committed to color.
Color is the cornerstone of Daniera and Christoph's work, and it's almost like they created their own language. So I'm excited to hear what color they choose for the recurring sound experiment, The Sound of a Color. So the experiment involves that you two choose a color, and then I get a musician to compose the sound of that color. So I want to ask you, which color do you want to hear the sound of?
Yeah, I have...
Ochre yellow?
Yeah, exactly. That would be also something I was thinking of. This kind of... Yeah, indeed, like a bit... how do you say, muddy...
Mustache.
Mustardy, ochreish yellow. So not too bright, not too dark, not too saturated, but still yellow, not brown. So kind of a light but sophisticated tone.
Yeah. And where did this color come from?
It's, I think, a color we use more often. So like years ago, we did the colors of the Santa Cola lamp, the ribbon. So it's a weave of textile. And I think that's also a beautiful color, how it turned out. But then it's made up with different shades of yarn. But I think that the mustard yellow or mostaza in Spanish, I think it's a color that can be combined quite well with many other colors. So you can do, of course, more yellow shades, but you can also put it next to a light blue, for example, can be really beautiful. So I think it's a nice color that's not very expressive by itself, but it can be a very, dienbaar, dankbaar in English.
Serving, but also depends on the context, it can, if you put it next to a very saturated blue, it suddenly also pulls up. So it's also, and also like that, the positivity of the color. It's a positive color, it's yellow, it's optimistic, but then it's not too screaming, it's quietly optimistic. So I like that about it. And I think also maybe, probably you will know it from your work, when you flip through a color book, I think the yellow color group, it's a very sensitive color group, because if you add a little bit of another tone, it directly changes the color. So you get quickly jumps from, the very saturated lemony kind of yellow, and then a little drip of that, and then suddenly you get this jump to almost like light browns. So I also like, you have to
sometimes
handle
it's quite
it gently.
A complex color, especially to pick it out of a color scheme. It's sometimes hard to find the right yellowish
Can
color.
be a bit too green, can be a bit too brown.
Can be too yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think overall, in all our works, graphic work or textiles or the products we have ourselves, yellow is always part of it. So I think in that sense, it's still a color that's important to us.
Yeah, and I would be very curious how it would sound like.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I want to just one last question in this kind of thing, still going with the whole idea that colors affect us on all our senses. If you had to say that this ochre yellow was a taste, what would it taste like?
In my perception, I would link it obviously to the more fruity, lemony, yellowish, so a little bit sour. But it's also a warm color, so that there's also not just the sour side of it. So maybe,
I think there's also still a bit of sweet in, but I think in general, while preparing a nice meal, it's important to have a bit of both. So I think also that's in the color of the ochre yellow, that it's a bit of this and a bit of that, and you mix it and you try to find the right balance.
It's actually funny that you ask for it, because when we have conversations about color, I quite regularly also do this reference about tastes. You know, when you put a palette together, what kind of flavors do you have in the palette, like deep one, light ones, more rich flavors, more, you know, the sugary ones. So that there can be quite, to me, it's also quite a good reference that works with color and taste.
Yeah. I think also it's a bit, if you have a love for cooking, it's also like a bit like making the perfect vinaigrette. It's like ochre yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. There we have the combination of a bit sour, sweet taste.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, I'm going to take this to my musician and then we'll hear what he can come up with.
Very curious.
Exciting, yes.
I'm curious about what the musician of this episode will say about ochre yellow. In this episode, I have invited the Los Angeles-born and raised singer-songwriter Devin Williams to throw himself into my sound experiment. After spending his early career in a variety of bands that played a variety of styles, Devin Williams focused on a solo approach that blends jangling guitars with warm synths and easygoing vocals. Devin Williams has produced 4 solo albums. His most recent one was praised by AllMusic as reaching that level of pop genius. He is currently working on his 5th album, but today I have asked him to create the sound of a color. Hi Devin.
Hi, how are you?
Well, I can say thank you very much for taking part in this experiment, the sound of a color.
Mm-hmm.
In this episode, my guest is Christoph and Daniera from Raw Color, and they are like a multidisciplinary studio based in the Netherlands, where I would say they do a lot of things, but like color is at the core of everything that they do. So when I asked them to pick a color that they wanted to hear the sound of, they picked a color that is present in a lot of their work, but also in this specific project that we talk about in the podcast. And the project that we talk about is this vast collection that they did for IKEA. And the color that they would like to hear the sound of is, drum roll, ochre yellow. Your reaction?
My reaction is, okay, so yellow is not one of my favorite colors. I think
Yellow is not your favorite color?
No, I think
What?
My favorite colors are brown and...
But this is actually kind of like they said this is this is kind of like a brown yellow. It's not brown, but it's like a yellow brown.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's a brown yellow, sorry.
No, I look, if we look it up, and just so that we can...
No, but I have a picture. I have a picture of the color. Okay, here it is.
Okay, let's look at... look, I don't want to... I'm not too opinionated on this, but like when I think of yellow, like this is what I think of.
A banana, a lemon, and a rubber duck.
Yellow is not like this happy thing for me. For me, it's like it has like a superficially...
But maybe it's because you're from the States, like the smiley face, like acid house.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of that too. I don't know, I'm thinking of like artificial flavors, or maybe that's the LA thing too, is artificial sun or artificial like superficial or shallow or whatever. I don't want to go too like Devin on you, because I feel like I have like harsh feelings, and I definitely don't want to say...
This is your interpretation. You can go all harsh Devin if you want.
But I don't know how I'm going to interpret that, right? Like mustard yellow.
Like it's almost like kind of like like harvest season, like
yeah,
corn.
That's the thing.
Because corn is like kind of like turning from green to yellow, and then it kind of goes like a light brown.
Because right now we're getting into autumn, right?
That's true.
And this is my favorite season.
Wow, but then how can you
I
not
know
like
that,
yellow? Because that's like the season of yellow, and autumn, ochre, yellow, brown.
And I'm excited, but then when I say yellow, I think I just have these like hang-ups with yellow, because I'm excited about autumn, and it is an autumn color, but when you put it like, when it looks so flat when we look at it like this, but if you put it on a leaf,
it's something else.
Now we're talking. But I just don't want to hear yellow. I don't want to like...
What if you had to go on a blind date with mustard yellow?
I would like walk in and see them and leave. I would be like, oh man, I can't do this. Because I know in my heart, I'm not a mustard.
Okay, so...
But maybe if it was like yellow, like what color is that? What yellow is that?
In the painting in my house? I would say that's kind of like quite close to like a lemon yellow, but like maybe like an unripe lemon.
Yeah.
Kind of have a bit more green in it.
Yes. So if I saw that, I would be like, wow.
Let's talk more.
Let's talk.
But maybe that's quite good that you're gonna actually kind of make like it's like a breakup song before you even went out.
Yeah, but actually I want to make it work. I'm gonna I saw them and I'm walking up, but now I'm going back in. I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm excited.
Yeah, that's good. Well, but like, okay, maybe just then to talk about like more like, you know, what's your main, when you create music, what's your main kind of approach to creating something new?
Just to play. I'm a guitar player, so I like to just play the guitar first, and then I'll sing while I'm playing guitar. So it's never, I have no intentions. So it's usually just sitting around and playing. Yeah, I think what I'll do is like really sit with the color visually, and maybe just like sit in a room with my guitar and look at the color and not think of...
And jam.
Yeah, just jam with it. I'll set up a microphone in front of the thing and be like, come
on. Mustard jam.
Yeah, mustard jam.
Okay. Devin, I just want to say that sounds exciting.
Yeah, I look forward to talking to you again.
Yeah, me too. And look forward to like hearing your version of Ochre Yellow.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to enjoy it.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.
I'm excited to hear what Devin will create for the sound of Ochre Yellow. In the meantime, we're going to talk about a recurring question in the podcast.
So I ask each guest that I have with me on the show to talk about a project or a piece of work that has had a significant colorful meaning to them, where colors are an important part of the project. And today we're going to talk about your collaboration with IKEA, Tillsammans. Can you just make a short description to the listeners what this project is all about?
So the Tillsammans collection is a collection of products. We collaborate with IKEA, and it's created for small living. So the objects are quite small as well. And one of the starting points for us was directly also to use color in this. It's a combination of different type of products, like from glass to textiles and metal pieces. And of course, all of that also to bring more color into your home. But it's also about, for example, there's a clock in it, an hour, and it's also about the movement. And there's a beautiful decoration of a mobile that's hanging in your living room or wherever you place it, and moving by the wind. So also there again. So it's also nice to see the color and movement as well.
Yeah, and to add, Tillsammans, it's the local Swedish dialect from Småland area, and it means together. So in that sense, it's also the togetherness of color, because we also believe that a color is never on itself, it's never alone. You always see it in a context of another color, you know, even it's a white room where you exhibit the color, or if there's a table with a colorful glass on top of it. It's always the combination, and that's what we also tried to put in the pieces. And the same what Daniera said, like it's the interaction of the moving pieces, but it's also the interaction between the products and the user and the objects and the home of the people.
Yeah, I think also with that whole project, I want to ask you, like, you know, obviously there's a huge color palette and lots of color combinations within range, and both on different materials like glass, textiles and metal. But what is important to you as designers when you create colors for a big commercial and versatile project like this?
Yeah, I think it's not that we were very busy with the commercial part of it. Of course, what's now very great to see is that it's a global collection, so you can buy it all over the world. And now, of course, on Instagram, social media, you find it back everywhere, and how everyone is using it and how everyone is bringing it in their own context, which for us is really great to see, because then suddenly, of course, something you created in your own studio is going all over the world, and everywhere it's still a match. And I think that was also quite nice to see. If we talk now, for example, about the rug, it's one of the biggest item in the collection. I mean, for a rug, still a small version, but it's quite colorful. A lot of colors are used.
I think there must be like 6 to 8 colors in the rug.
But if you see it in all these different photos that people took from it, it's in every home. It's a match. So I was sometimes a bit afraid for the rug. That I felt like, oh my God, maybe it's too much color. Can people handle this? But now you feel that how people are using it and placing it in their homes, that somehow also they always adapt to where they are in. And that was for us also very learnful to see that still, while using a lot of color, it can match almost with every home.
Yeah, but there's a Dutch saying that, or I don't know if it's Dutch saying actually, but it says that uneven is even, like it's in that sense, when it says, or the meaning to me, like when you try to align things too much and they just not align, it doesn't look right. So you can better, don't align them and let things jump out to not get into this gray zone. Is it perfectly aligned or not? And actually, when we look back at that process of the rug, we also had initially another design, which was like a rug that had more like warm tones, like red and yellows and a bit of pink. And so because we initially thought, let's don't make it too crazy. And
before this was the design of the blanket. And that's why we printed it out on.
When we reviewed the prototypes at the IKEA headquarters, and then suddenly during the conversation, somebody threw it at the ground, the initial blanket design, and then suddenly we placed other items of the collection because that blanket had so many colors, and we thought actually it works because it doesn't take sides. It's not. It doesn't try to align. It's not. Let's take the warm tones or let's take the cool ones, or let's be very neutral in somebody's home. So actually, by not aligning, you're maybe even better aligning. you know what I mean? What I want to say?
Yeah. I understand. Yeah, for me, colors are almost like each their own personality. Mm-hmm. And I think when you put colors together, the colors are making a new conversation, and a color is never a color on its own. It only kind of almost exists in the relation to other colors. Mm-hmm. 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 What I'm thinking about when I look at this rug is also that because of the many array of colors, it kind of always have a different conversation depending on what home it's in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I quite like the idea that it's that the colors get their own life when it kind of moves into different homes.
Yeah, and I mean also like, of course, there's not a religion of how we do it, that everybody should do it. Everybody should do it their own way. But I mean, just looking at ourselves, for example, how we constructed, or how we grew, maybe that's a better word, our house and our interior. We never made an interior plan. Let's put that color and made a color palette and this and that, and the table is the same color than the curtains. It's really a collection and a collage of things. So in that sense, I do have the feeling that we anyway live in a world that's planned until the micro details, and sometimes we should just let them happen. For example, also when we talk now about collecting objects and how this grows into a house. That's actually beautiful and not supposed to match. And it's the same when we collect inspiration for project images online, for whatever. Sometimes you collect them and you don't know why you choose them. There's something intuitively that attracts you to this image. You drag it into a folder. You might not use it in the end, but maybe later when you look in the project, this photo or this image makes total sense in its context. Like that's a bit the things that we, we shouldn't maybe plan everything because it doesn't allow any spontaneity and any room for intuition anymore.
Daniera and Christoph want to be spontaneous and playful with their colors. But why do they think it is important to have colors in our home?
Yeah, why is it important? I mean, of course, for everyone it should be their own decision. But I think still, maybe more again, if you zoom a bit back, if you go back in history, then overall, often homes had a lot of color. So most homes were colored outside, but also from the inside. If you go back in nature, when we didn't have houses, there's hardly anything that's white. I mean, you have some white flowers, snow is white, a cloud feels white. But overall, like trees, grass, sand, water, nothing is white. And somehow now we are more and more into this drifting off of all these things that we normally were surrounded with. Mm. Yeah, and of course, then it's still, we use now colors that were also maybe not all coming from nature or from the outside. But still, I think it's actually more cozy when we use more color. And of course, when you think about your home and your habitat, it is nice that it feels like something you would like to stay in for a long time. And of course, white sometimes, I mean, we also still have some white walls, and white can also be always still the A4 white paper where everything is still possible. So sometimes it's maybe more convenient for people to use white, because then they don't need to make a decision yet. And sometimes, of course, decisions are pretty hard, and then it's maybe easier to say let's keep it white. But
no, but it's true. I think also when you refer to, like, I mean, how far do we go back in history? But then like these old Dutch farmhouses, for example, jump into my mind with woodwork inside, and they had like beautiful lacquers of deep greens, deep reds, yellows, whatever. But
some colors had a function to take it to let insects stay out, and so of course some colors back then also came more because of a certain reason.
Preserve the wood.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I mean, then when we look back, what have been the first white places that came in human existence? It's probably been hospitals or clean, rooms that had to be like very clean and there's no dirt and high level of hygienic. So it's funny that we still stuck in this mode, and we want to surround ourselves in this kind of environment that refer to this super high cleaning rooms. And it's also interesting. I read a while ago an article in a Dutch newspaper about the Dutch architect Rietveld. And of course there was the style movement with Rietveld and Mondrian, and they really been the advocates of this white and primary color palette that still is resonating in so many people's homes. But they really took it as a revolution and a counter idea of all these brown homes at that time. Then it was really the dark oak, and it was very deep and brown, and they wanted to inject this freshness. And I do have this feeling that we are maybe at the moment that we also need that revolution back then, what had happened, that we maybe need to return a bit to coziness and sensuality in when it comes to spaces.
I think you're right. I think we're living in a time where we, for a while, have been almost overstimulated by, the coming of the mobile phone and the internet in your pocket, and all of a sudden your society has grown to a global society instead of your local community. So I hope that that's going to be a part of that revolution to making us embrace colors in our home. And because I think I agree with what you guys are saying, that colors is just a part of making a home a cozy place. And you're saying, well, it's important because a home is a place where you want to be and feel cozy and safe and nice.
And especially now, with of course the world being very unsteady everywhere, and that at least the spot where you go home to is something where you feel comfortable. But overall, of course, it's always up to the person. So it's not that we just want to be the color Bible of everyone should use color. But I think it would be great that people try to dare a bit more. Maybe that's a good starting point. And I think that's also, of course, what the Summons tries to do. I mean, already in the whole IKEA collection, of course, we had a lot of reviews on that. And while the process took over more than 3 years, and we had a lot of meetings, of course. And then sometimes you went through the collection of what IKEA has right now. And also all those type of brands. I mean, not only IKEA, but also a lot of other brands. They go more and more into the grays, beige, white, black, and it's also to be more safe, because that's something that's always selling. So, so of course, also those furniture brands are also part of it, how people in the end create their own homes. Yeah.
And of course, we live in a world that's what you just said, strongly relating on electronic technology, on data. So probably there are a lot of data-driven decisions being made that probably white and gray is selling for the majority of the sales. But I also do believe, data is not always the only truth, because it has to do with conditioning, and we keep on repeating in the same self-fulfilling prophecy. If we teach people to live in gray and white environments, and we offer gray and white products, of course they're going to keep on buying this.
Yeah.
So some people have to dare to break the chain, and it's the same when it comes to automotive, to other things. I mean, look back in the 50s, there has been a huge variety when it came to cars, to shapes, to colors.
Yeah.
People dared because there was not probably this strong market analysis and data, and we all base it on sale numbers. So there have been people that just trusted on their guts and their intuition, which also probably meant that sometimes you will take a wrong decision and there will be faults and mistakes. That's part of evolution. But you might also hit the bullseye with something that nobody expected.
Yeah.
And that's something I see in the world that's less and less common. And, that's why all the cars basically look alike when it comes to color, when it comes to shape, branding, and so forth.
Christoph is right. When I look at cars on the road today, they are all the same. Silver, white, grey, black. No one stands out. In my opinion, that's a shame. But how can you as a designer hold on to the courage to keep using colors in your design?
It always stays a very emotional thing, and that's a strength of using color. But it can also, on the opposite, being the weak point, because everyone has opinion about it. So it's quite difficult sometimes. So I think in that sense, always staying close to what you believe in is good, and doing that for a long time. Then it can become your handwriting, and then people also understand more and more what you're doing. So, for example, if we go back again, this 17 years, and so at one moment we created business cards, and then we only said what color that's on it. So it's not we are doing products, graphics, photography. So it's only the business card says what color. So. And back then it was not so super, not so many studios did all these different disciplines. So
no,
sometimes it felt a bit like, are people anyway understanding what we believe in could be something?
And we also didn't have this master plan. So it was kind of learning by doing, right? Like each step
learning by doing, but also believing in what we did was what we found interesting and important at that time, and not going in the mainstream of, okay, I need this business card and it needs to mention we do graphic design or so. And of course now it's more easy because you do it for many years, but I think that's again like believing in what you are doing and doing that. Yeah, try to keep on doing that very strongly, and of course that then you need a long breath because sometimes it's not always easy in this whole design field. There are a lot of designers, and social media can help you but can also break you again. So it's a challenging time in that sense, and working with labels is also not always super easy. So how to maintain your studio and how to run the business can be challenging. So we do a lot of everything, and that makes it how we can do this with our team. So that's nice.
I think that's a good advice to really stay put and stay true to yourself and not be afraid of listening to your own personal opinion.
Yeah, and then there's of course a challenge when you work with clients. They will also have a strong opinion, and they will push you back, or they will push you in a certain direction. That's also what we are still experiencing. I mean, it's not that we say something and it's going to happen. We also have debates about we think it should be like that, and then they say we think it should be like this. So what do? Then you keep on
ping-ponging.
Yeah, indeed, being diplomatic, trying to have a compromise, is to compromise the good, or so
it's also always good to have discussions about it, and I think also, but that's of course the other side of using a lot of color means also it takes a lot of extra time. So it's good to be aware for all the people, if you need to get your Pantone swatches and your numbers fixed. Of course, if you do black or white, there are not that many choices, so it's easier done. So, but if you have to decide, which yellow, which pink, which blue, which green, sometimes on the studio, I think almost the most discussions we have about using which type of specific color. So it's of course what we love to do, but sometimes it can also be pretty annoying that you think, oh my god, all these colors. It's challenging.
It's like the pain.
Yeah.
For example, now we work on an exhibition design where every wall has a different color.
Wow.
Well, and then...
Yeah, that's not totally true, but
Yeah,
there are a lot of
almost.
colors. There are a lot of. There are
colors.
also 12 colors in the exhibition.
But if you would have done 3 or 1, you would have been done already, you
exactly.
know. And now you need to... And then, of course, the translation in colors. If you go analog, so like a paint on the wall, and then you go digital and you want to match those colors, that's again a terrible...
Exactly. Because the signing, you know, the text for the objects in the exhibition, they should have the same color on the print than the wall color. So all these have been matched.
Which is not possible, of course. So that's the same. If you look again at the Summons collection, then the glass color is different than the painted color of the backside of the clock. So of course, it is a different material. There are different options and choices and finishes and appearances. The glass is shiny, the metal is matte. So, and all those things create, of course, this whole appearance of the object. But I think that's the thing that also intrigues us. So what happens if you put it high gloss onto something, or matte, or all these different type of finishes and materials where you can place the color on. And that's why, do it now for so many years, but it's also something we can continue with for the rest of our life, I would say.
It's exactly that complexity that Christoph and Daniera talk about that I love about colors, that keeps me inspired again and again. And speaking of inspiration, I'm very curious to hear where Christoph and Daniera get their inspiration from. Therefore, I have asked them to share a thing or a place that they find particularly inspiring.
Yeah, so of course we don't see things, so I have to kind of describe it. But one thing we had to think about is we were on holiday in Normandy. Mm-hmm. And you have to pronounce the word because I always say it in the wrong way.
Mont Saint-Michel, you know, the island.
The very touristic
the church on
spot.
the top.
Yeah, and we have 2 children, 2 sons. And we went there. Of course, it's quite a weird space in the middle of nowhere coming out of the water. So it was really great. We have been there, I think, like 12 years ago or something together. Mm-hmm. But while we were running through all these touristic people and shops, and like we think, oh my God, what a terrible place this is. I looked at this little cabinet and I saw like a farmer, little ceramic puppet, or how you say it, man or doll, figure. That's a better word. And I think it's part of the Christmas
staple,
you know, with Maria, Jesus.
But
then the farmer, but he was so pretty.
It's Joseph probably then, no? The farmer is the father. It's the dad of Jesus. But I mean,
Jesus' dad.
Jesus' dad. We found Jesus' dad in Mont Saint-Michel.
Yeah, that's where you need to go. But at least if I describe the color, so it has a very light, fresh yellow, and then it's kind of
at the base. The soil basically.
He has a really deep brown hat and shoes and a bag, and a beautiful warm green. I would say, how would you describe it? As a sweater. Kind
of a green with a lot of yellow in it.
Yeah, and then he has a belt around his belly, and then
which is kind of reddish brown.
Yeah, and then he wears what is it?
Kind of pants, skirt-like pants.
Yeah. Mm. And
in a light blue, kind of gray muddy
There's quite
blue.
a lot of black in the blue.
Jesus' dad was quite a stylish guy.
Yeah, totally.
We were like, whoa, fuck, he looks beautiful. Yeah, so somehow...
And it's high gloss, so it's glazed in a high gloss area.
Yeah.
And maybe also...
And he's like 10 centimeters high, so it's small.
And maybe also the relation, again, to my current insight, that this strong relation between shape and color. I mean, now we only describe the color, but it's a very organic figure. So, I mean, you see like traces of a nose and eyes, but it's
not detailed.
No, it's not too detailed. It's almost a very, organic silhouette of that person. So not too detailed, no fingers, just like surfaces with little detail and little embossing of the folds in his pants. So I think it's a bit like, when you think about the sculpture, you had like Constantin Brancu's, the Romanian sculpture, like really kind of organic, like almost like a monoblock of a shape, but with little details. So again, I think that we talk, of course, so much about the color, and when you look at scientific research, that's also what they say with human perception. It makes 90% within the first few seconds. If you look at something, it's of course the color that attracts your initial attention, but also again that relation between the color and the shape. I mean, it could also be let's try to imagine the opposite, that it's just really blocky cubes for this farmer figure. It would look totally different still. It would be hard, and if it would be matte, it wouldn't be so sophisticated and in a flowy shape and appearance. And that gloss really enhances that flowiness.
Yeah, well, next to this figure, we also have a figure from India, and we have a figure from Mallorca, and we love those little objects. But now it's a porcelain one, but it can be everything. It can be very daily objects as well. But we love, you fall in love with the appearance and the color of this certain object. And then, of course, now it's nice with the story where we found it, and a place where I would never expect it to find something so beautiful. So it's, you always get happy of those little treasures, I would say.
Yeah, and I think actually starting out with what I said, that for me, like, I quite like the idea that I look at you as designers who work with color as a material. And now you just described an object where actually it is almost like it's the material of color that you got inspired by.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also the color composition, the colors they place together on this figure. I think that's it could be almost inspiration for the new Dries van Noten collection or something, no? If you look at it.
Yeah.
So, and of course the person who made it is not aware of this, and that sometimes
or maybe the person
probably
is.
not, it's just they pick a few colors.
But it was also when you looked at the whole setting of the other figures, of course, there's been also Maria,
they
there's
were not
one
so
of the
nice.
kings, there was Jesus. We didn't pick any of the others because they didn't have that, they didn't hit the sweet spot like this farmer figure had.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, again, we get back to the perfect vinaigrette. It's the color combinations that made it for you.
Yeah, and the shape, as we said, maybe Maria was too detailed or whatever, and Jesus was too small and too recognizable that, it's baby Jesus, that there's been this magic formula that worked with this little farmer.
So never thought we could talk so long about this figure.
No, but it's true. It's like, it's like an art history class, and that's the funny thing also when we give lectures.
We'll do another episode just on Jesus' dad.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can analyze things in retrospect, and that is the spontaneity and the intuition that I'm talking about. Of course, I can imagine if people are not trained as creatives and have no passion or feeling with colors, it's really hard for them to do that for their homes, for example, whatever, or for their wardrobe, for the dresses. But again, if we would have this interior plan of which colors are fitting, what our sofa is brown and the curtains are the same, then you would not step into this shop and you would find this figure, because we didn't analyze this figure. You just go in it, you look at it, within a few seconds, bam, you see it, and you feel something about it.
Yeah.
And there's no, it's the same like, as we say, if you want to catch a ball, you don't think about catching a ball, it's your reflex that does it. And I think that's something that we also try to embrace as creatives.
Yeah, the intuitive, to be intuitive in your search of inspiration or in your...
When it comes to projects, like we also are tutors at Design Academy and artists Arnhem to design educations in the Netherlands for roughly 14 years. And when we try to navigate together with our students through their projects, the learning is always two-sided, right? It's not just that we tell them what to do, you also learn from them and you learn through the processes. And there is this thing, you will never, I believe, never get to a good result. That sounds really black and white now, but anyway, just try to say it. You will never get to a good result by only analyzing it, making plans, draw exactly what you think of. There's always this aspect of your hands, of sketching, of coincidences, brainstorms, talking about something, seeing suddenly something unexpected, walking through the park, getting an idea, whatever, but you have to enable yourself and your process or your peers or your clients or whatever to encounter these moments. But if you just sit and you overthink stuff, I believe.
Hoping you will make this golden egg.
Yeah, exactly. The golden egg, it's hard work, it's digging it up and keep on digging and finding it somewhere in the bushes. The golden egg lays always somewhere where you don't expect it to lay.
I think that's the perfect place to stop our conversation. The golden egg is never in the place you think it is.
No, exactly. Yeah.
I really wanna say thank you to both of you because it was such a nice chat about colors, and I can't wait to share it.
Yeah.
Nice, great, thank you.
Yeah, it was a fun conversation.
I think it's impossible not to be inspired by Christoph and Daniera's approach to color. And one day I will have to own a colorful figure of Jesus Father myself. Now, all that remains is to hear what our musician Devin has gotten out of the ochre yellow color.
Hi Devin, I'm back.
You know what I realized is that one of my favorite t-shirts is ochre yellow.
Really?
Yeah.
But last time we met up, you were like, I hate yellow.
I know that, and then I realized that's the shirt I wore when Felix was born.
Oh.
So now I'm like, I love it. Yeah, I learned a lot about myself in our last interview. I've changed. I have a yellow tattoo.
Well, this is like therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So you have worked on interpreting ochre yellow into a piece of music.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell me how it went?
Yeah, I after we talked, I think I realized that there was more. I think I was being a little rigid. Because I think
what you said about that you hated yellow.
Yeah, I do. Anyway, so I had an idea of because we talked about leaves and sunsets and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm. And autumn.
And autumn. And so I took that and I went home and I had an idea of trying to embrace the autumn. And I was thinking of a couple songs that felt really like autumny. And there's a song by America called Sister Golden Hair. It's a super American song. It's like...
obviously the band is called America?
Yeah, they were called America. They also did the song for The Last Unicorn, which is like a really good 80s cartoon. Anyway, it's a really, there's some slide guitar, but it's like really up-tempo, like sort of 70s country. Anyway, and it felt very warm, and it says golden in it, and I was like, this is very... It just came up on it was serendipitous, because it just came up while I was listening to music.
Yeah.
And so I was like, slide guitar, it just felt very, that's... And so then I picked up my guitar while I was playing with my son, and I was trying something, and it didn't really make sense. This is pretty detailed. All right, how can I...
It's details. I'm just looking at stuff on, technical stuff. I'm sorry.
I don't know, how...
I'm bored now.
I'm trying to think of what's the interesting part. I intended to do one thing, and there were two ideas of, you take a guitar and you have a warm guitar sound, but then I also had this idea of a synthy keyboardy thing. We call it a wash or a pad, where you can play a chord, and it's just and it just feels warm.
Is that fuzzy? It's just because the sound is kind of fuzzy. Is that what makes it warm? Is that?
I think what makes it warm is that we call it a pad. So if you play a chord, it's sustained, so it goes for a while. It stays sort of at the same.
Just like being stroked.
Yeah, or wearing a really warm blanket. And I think of that when I think of.
Oh, wearing a warm blanket. I like that idea.
But it is warm tonally.
Yeah.
And so it feels. Let's call ochre yellow amber from now on. Because I don't like yellow. Maybe I don't like the word.
You could just call it ochre.
Let's call it amber.
But amber is more brown. And we know you
love
brown.
That's what I'm going. Anyway, so I ditched the guitar and started messing with the keyboard. And that changed the direction. Yeah. And then then I think I stopped thinking about it. And then I just
went with it.
Yeah, and I was actually I was having a lot of fun, and I was really happy with it. And I think what I learned after I recorded, I actually went back to some other music that I'm working on. I was like, why can't I just be more, free with that music? So I think it was so I thank you for the opportunity.
So you had a really nice experience with the process.
I really did, and it came together really quickly, or at least time went by quickly, which I really enjoyed. And during a busy workday, I think it was really appreciated to have freedom of mind. And last thing I want to say about yellow, ochre, whatever the fuck, it's mustard, right? It's mustardy.
Yeah.
And I think I had in my mind that there would be an electric guitar that was ugly and mustardy. And I didn't know what that was. I didn't know if it would be like, you probably, I don't know if it'll come out the way I hear it, but when I plugged the guitar and the levels were all the way up, like it was peaking, and it was really like, and I was like, oh, that's mustard. And so I used it as like
so mustard accident.
But it was like true representation.
It was like intended accident.
It was intended. It was like, I'll show you ugly. There you go, ochre. And so I left it in to show that even ugly things can be beautiful.
Oh, wow. And on that note, I really think we should hear your piece of ochre yellow.
Okay. A 1, a
2.
A 1, 2, 3.
Okay, everybody at home, plug in your headphones and turn up the volume and get comfortable and close your eyes because here comes the sound of ochre yellow. Thank you very, very much for listening. As always, I really, really appreciate it. If you liked what you heard, please give the podcast a rating or a review. That's really helpful because it helps other people to find the show as well. So I'm told something about algorithms. And if you are curious to see more about the work of Raw Color after hearing about them in this episode, check it out on my website, sarahgottlieb.dk, under the podcast section. And this episode was sponsored by Montana Furniture.